Benicio, and so that was a real guy, although he had died before you did Escape from Dannemora. Did you like homework about the character beforehand or ask questions?
Well, yes. You know, there was transcripts of all the testimonies of the other two characters that survived the escape.
Right.
And so I read that, and you know, the script. Basically, Ben Stiller, the director of Escape at Dannemora, you know, he was really keen on me playing this part, and he gave me the first episode, and I just thought that it was very clever the way they were setting up this character that we know was a.
And because you shot the thing in Clinton, in the prison, were any of the background extras, were they actually prisoners at Clinton?
We actually shot in the prison, but I don't think that the actual extras were actually serving at the time.
Wow.
No.
Well,
they cleared it up.
Did you know that out in nature there are no right angles? But in here it's all right angles.
It's an engineered environment.
Bars up, bars down, bars across.
I just got to say, you know, I'm a big fan, like a lot of people, and
thank you.
I'm always interested with you because you sort of bring the audience into you. You know, you remind me of both Jack Nicholson and Sean Penn, where you're able to bring an audience into you and with your own sense of pacing and time. So do you think about a scene? Do you think about how what the pace of the scene is going to be, or you just play the second and figure that's not my business, I'll just take my time and play it out, and they'll cut it the way?
Well, actually, when I every time I act, I always feel like I'm rushing.
Really?
I always feel like I'm rushing, so I'm always kind of like, and I've had a few directors say to me, "Take your time." And so now when I go to work, I keep hearing the echo of these directors going, "Take your time," and maybe even from acting class.
Yeah.
You know.
You studied with Stella Adler?
Yes, I did. I studied with Stella Adler.
There was a particular coach there?
There was a teacher called Arthur Mendoza there. There were several.
Right.
Did you study with Stella?
I studied with a guy named Win Handman, who was out of the Neighborhood Playhouse. And actually, I'm going this week. They've done a documentary on Win called "It Takes a Lunatic," and it's about Win because he's still teaching. He's 97 years old.
Excellent.
I studied with him 50 years ago, and my son, who's 40 now, recently worked with him. But you know how important your acting teacher was, at least for me. I mean, my issue was confidence. You know, I struggled with my confidence early on in terms of. So I was happy to have an acting teacher who sort of built your confidence up before he tore you down. I don't know which way Mendoza helped you.
Well, and actually, Stella, I don't know what I got from the acting class was, which by the way, in Kaminsky Method, I love you as the acting teacher. You know,
right.
everything, the glasses on top of the hat, everything, all those little things are fantastic. What I got from acting class was that it was really serious. Acting was like you were studying to be a doctor.
Yeah.
Or something like that, or, you know, it was serious. The acting class, the feeling in the class was really serious, and especially with Stella, it was like everybody was really quiet and everybody listened. And there was a seriousness about it that I really enjoyed, and I tend to take it seriously, not too much, but.
No, you do. I had the other happen to me. I had someone early on tell me the camera can always tell when you're lying. I went, ooh, the camera can tell when you're lying. So I had this whole period, oh God, so I was like this method guy, man. I was just so tough on myself, just beating the shit out of myself.
But let me tell you something, Michael. I've watched your career. You're a legend. I'm a fan. It's an honor to be here. But you don't lie. You don't, and if you do, I don't get to lie.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. The story said, I said, Jesus, and one day I was doing, it was relatively later in my career, it was Fatal Attraction. And I'm getting ready for Fatal Attraction. I'm reading, okay, it's a lawyer. He's in New York. Okay, yeah. I said, wait a minute. I could be a lawyer. I mean, Michael Douglas, I could be a lawyer in New York. I went to school. I said, I could maybe have had an adulterous relationship. Not saying I did, but maybe I could have. And then all of a sudden they said, no, acting is all about lying. Acting is lying. Acting is just making people believe.
Yeah.
Because you can't have a pure emotional moment every time. It's just you couldn't live your life that way, or at least
Right.
I couldn't. So you learn technique, but it's about lying. And I said, yeah, most of us take a white lie every day, and it sort of freed me up. It was a big moment for me. It kind of freed me up, made it much easier.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. But there's the truth.
Yeah,
it's like the lie and there's the truth. And the fact that, when I watch you, I get the feeling that you're really there. And that's so hard to do. It's just hard. I mean, I just like, and you've done it consistently for, 3 decades?
No.
4?
5.
5.
It's sweet to say.
No, it's the truth. It's the truth. I'm not lying.
Your boat is slow? I'm like when the Titanic was pointing up.
I'm just worried if they take out my prostate, I'm going to lose my sex drive.
You still have a sex drive?
Yeah. I think I do. We got to know each other on Traffic.
That's right.
Although people always forget when none of us were in the same movie.
Right.
It was like three different stories. But I remember first seeing you in Traffic, the little siege you have.
I have to say this, and I don't think I've ever told you, and I'm really grateful for this. We had to do a scene together. There was, in this script, there was a couple of scenes that my character and your character had that it never made it to the movie.
Right.
For some reason, it was July, and it was June, because I remember the NBA finals were going on. And for some reason, the AD, second, third AD, said, you can go home. So I got in the car, and we were shooting downtown, and I drove all the way to Westwood, where I was living at the time. And as I got there, the phone rang, and it was Steven Spielberg, the director. Where are you? And I go, what do you mean, where are you? I said, we have the scene with Michael. It was my first scene with you. And I was dying. On my way back, we hit traffic.
Oh, that's right.
So
That's right.
Traffic for real.
Right.
And as we were driving back, I'm killing myself, going like, who do you think you are, making Michael Douglas wait for you? And so I get there, and I'm going like, what is he going to be like? Is he going to be really angry? And I walked in, and you were smiling.
Right.
And you were so nice. And it really, and we did the scene, and I think, it was like, like cheesecake. Boom.
Boom.
We went right through it. And what I remember was that the scene was used in the preview for Traffic, for the movie.
Right.
It was never used in the movie, but you were so kind and so nice. You understood that I was bashing myself all the way from Westwood to downtown LA, and thank you, because really it really showed that you understand the human condition.
Well, I'm also a producer, and I think producing really has helped me kind of see the big picture, and part of the big picture is my responsibility always is to try to make every other actor as comfortable as he possibly can be.
Yes.
Because you only do your best work when you're relaxed and you're comfortable. And I only want to be in movies with good actors, and good people, because to me, it's the material, and then it's how good everybody is. I would much rather have a small part in a good movie than a big part in a bad movie.
I understand completely, but that's exactly what you showed to me. I learned from you, that, and I tried to be as kind, especially newcomers. You can see that they're like nervous, they're working. You've done work before, they haven't, which in that case you were. I was the newcomer, but it was.
It's also unique, important. I think, for both of us. Steven Soderbergh is a very unique director in the fact that he's also the cameraman, And also, you know, early on that you probably only have one shot at shot at it. He's the opposite of most everybody else. He's not afraid of doing one take
And go home,
and you go.
Right.
And you move on. But you won an Oscar in that performance, and it was unbelievable. But I was
Thank you,
looking
Marshall.
at you, and I was thinking, I know one question I really have for Benicio is you handle food better on screen than anybody I've seen. And I want I'm watching you eating the apple, and in Danamora, I'm watching you deal with the spaghetti, and I'm thinking about you back on Traffic when eating those little. You do business like that, really. Do you think about that before the scene starts that you're gonna use something, or is it? I mean, do you map out stuff beforehand, or do you just you're impulsive?
Both ways, but I think sometimes I have an idea or it's written in the script. I think eating the Doritos in Escape at Danamora was on the script.
Right.
Or eating the apple, I think it was on the script. So sometimes it is written in the script, and sometimes you just do it. And but sometimes I might just. I think that sometimes I might see someone, like on the set eating, and get an idea. Well, maybe this scene would be better if the character would be eating. And I go to the director and go like, sometimes.
No, you were so like a couple of places you spilled something one time, and the thing you're very.
Oh, thank you.
Very, very natural. But I'm always scared to death of those eating scenes because of coverage. And I was thinking you're eating that spaghetti in Danamora, going, man, I hope they didn't cover that.
Oh no, I was spitting it every time they said cut. It's like I chew, and then spit. But
how have you seen? Because you've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah, for a while.
For a while now, too.
20-some years, almost 30.
What do you see where you are now in terms of when you first came in, how the business has changed or the craft?
I think there's more opportunity now.
Yeah.
For actors, I feel there's so much out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. What I've seen when I first started was like if you were doing movies, TV was kind of like not where you went. Your goal was to do movies, and I've seen that change now. I think TV is it's equally as in depth and in quality as movies. I've seen some Netflix or Showtime, any of those TV or HBO that they do just great work, and they do, and it's just like it's kind of great. I'd say let it rip.
Yeah, I sort of had my first break in my career was in television. I did a television series in
Streets of San Francisco.
Streets of San
Yes,
Francisco,
sir.
And it was first of all, in those days we would do 26-hour episodes. Each episode was 6 days, and we were on location, or there were 7 days. We were on location in San Francisco, so we would shoot 8.5 months straight through, for 26 episodes. And then I left the show at the end of the 4th year. It was a hit. I left the show to produce Cuckoo's Nest. And in those days, I think back on it, and Karl Malden, my star of the show, and Quinn Martin, who's the big-time producer of the show, led me out of my contract.
To go produce.
To go produce, but they knew how much I wanted to go produce this. They thought I was nuts. I had a hit television show. And it's hard to remember, but 40 years ago, there was only CBS and NBC. There were only 2 stations.
That's crazy.
ABC was just, look how many other, ABC was just beginning. There was us and there was Kung Fu with David Carradine, right?
David Carradine, yeah.
So my point is, anyway, I left the show, and I've always looked back because I think back now, is what producer or lead would allow you to leave a show when you had a contract? It doesn't happen today, man. They wouldn't let you do that.
Now let me ask you something. How long did it take to produce One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Well, I'd worked on it for years before I started the series.
Okay.
But as it turned out, my producing partner was up in Berkeley, California, right next to where I was doing the show. So we paralleled work for the 4 years in trying to get it together, and then did it. But what happened is, so now Cuckoo's Nest happens, I win the Oscar for Best Picture, I'm a producer, right, and all of this. So now I'm producing movies, right? But as an actor, I can't play in the movies because I'm a television actor.
Right, right.
And the whole thing then was, well, if you're in television they can see you for free. But if you're in a movie, they got to pay.
Ah, okay.
see
That
you.
was why.
They have to pay to see you in a movie.
Yeah.
So I had pictures like Starman, that Jeff Bridges was in.
Yes.
I wanted to do that part. Jeff
okay.
Bridges was approved by the studios. I couldn't. So I just started earlier on, and would get a China Syndrome or Romancing would get a part that other actors, after they turned it down, would let me get it. Anyway, make a long story short, so finally get in there, and you're right, you have an acting career, and there's always this separate parallel track between television and feature films.
And now it's just
Now the streaming world,
It's just a different
you had
thing.
with Showtime, and I had here with Netflix, where you can do I'm doing a half-hour comedy, but there's no commercials. There's no commercial breaks. There's no language restrictions.
Right.
So it's really like, and it doesn't, you say half hour, it could be 25 minutes long or 40 minutes
Right,
long. There's
right.
no restrictions on
Right.
how long it is. So they're like, mini movies, and it's never been easier to go back and forth between movies and television. So I think it's a great plus.
I think so too.
Between Eileen dying and my recent health scare, my perspective has changed regarding my feelings towards you.
You have got some big brass balls.
In a good way.
Did you ever thought you were going to go back to TV before you did the Kaminsky Method?
No. I really didn't.
How
Chuck-
did that come about?
Chuck Lorre, who's a big time television writer, producer, going back to Sybil, Dharma and Greg, 2.5 Men, Big Bang Theory, Young Sheldon, Mom. I mean, one hit after another. He sent me this script, of the Kaminsky Method, and the writing was so good. And once again, you saw how many, he's a television writer, but you also have all these feature film writers who are going into the streaming area. And Chuck is a half-hour comedy network guy who most all of his shows are on what they call 4 cameras, which are with an audience and almost like on a stage. 4 cameras, they shoot him, and that was it. This was the first one that he was doing like in a
Feature
movie,
film, yeah.
like with one camera and a movie. And even him, and the first thing that he learned, which was really interesting, he said, I don't have to write as much. I said, what do you mean you don't have to write as much? He said, on the 4-camera sitcom situation, you can never get closer than a waist shot. That's as close as you can get to anybody. He said, but this stuff, he said, I can shoot close-ups. So I don't need to write stuff as much because now I can see expression and stuff like that. So for me also, the big thing is that you go to a certain point in your life and you say, what have I not done? What do I want to do? And there were 2 things. One was comedy, which, I've had a couple of comedies over my years, Romancing a little bit, War of the Roses with Danny, picture I liked called Wonder Boys, but I wouldn't say people think of me as a comedian. So I really wanted to learn comedy. I wanted to learn, and I felt pretty good about physical comedy, but comic timing on delivery, it's a whole world unto itself, man. It's like, these guys like Alan Arkin, they're so good. This year we got Paul Reiser, and I've just watched them, and they know how to do the reactions, and it's a whole timing thing.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a chance to learn a whole new world of something I've never seen before, and I love it. I feel like a student, where I'm really learning something new, which is great. And then the other area, of course,
great.
which we both share, is the Marvel world. Where I'd never done a green screen, one of these CGI movies before, you know?
Right.
And I got the greatest respect. I used to think it was a joke, all this pretending stuff, and you got to act your ass off, man.
Right,
You have to act,
right.
And there's nothing there.
It's kind of like it brings you back to theater in a way.
It does.
You know,
it
where you
does.
have to pretend there's something here
Yeah,
that is not. You got to
exactly.
sell
It's
it.
something. You're in the ship. There, things are passing by you, and all of this.
Right.
So I've been really happy at this point in my. Well, first of all, I'm happy. Where's some wood around here? I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm still working. But the fact that you don't think of yourself finding new areas that you like, it's something an area, something you even if it's not a project. Is there an area that you like to do?
Yeah, I love to go into that comedy thing because I it's just I've done a lot of I try to be funny in my serious stuff, but it's a different thing, that to be like what you do in this show, which you're dealing with in this show, you're dealing with issues that are really deep about life, and the way the show and you and Alan Arkin and Danny DeVito and Elliot Gould, the way you pass this information that is so light.
Yeah.
And you're watching this thing and you're kind of like, it's an art to be able to do that. And so to be able to do that, to do something that is deep and dark and be able to do it light and at the same time get a laugh. And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That is that I would love to do that and try to do that. Maybe more romantic character. I'll shave.
No, we obviously. You're a pretty romantic guy, Benicio. I think that. Yeah, no, the humor thing is interesting. Also, when you don't have an audience, there's no audience, and you're doing stuff, and you got to be careful because you're doing stuff, and they go, "Oh, this is funny, this is funny."
Right.
But da, and then just silence. Silence.
It's like I read a story about Charles Laughton, the great Charles Laughton, the actor, that he did a movie with Abbott and Costello. And they said, why are you going and doing a silly movie for kids with Abbott and Costello? And he said, because he wanted to learn the double take.
Right, there you go.
He wanted to, and I thought that's what you're talking about.
That's what I am. I watch, comedy, not physical comedy, but even, that type of just how do you get laughs or how do you do it? So I've really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed the freedom now of not feeling like you're being limited by so-called being television versus the quality that I'm seeing coming out and the level is very impressive, and I feel very fortunate to be creative end of the business performer because I don't think there's ever been a time when there's been more opportunities out there than there is right now.
I agree. I think it's a good time for creative storytellers.
So we got to find, maybe we could be two funny hitmen.
Yeah.
Let's find something we can do
Let's
together,
it.
man.
All right.
So we can...
Call Netflix. I'll call Showtime.
Okay.
It's just my way of saying thank you for reconnecting me with my daughter.
No, I wanted to do that for you.
I got a strong feeling about this.
Okay.
After someone who has did a series of little indie feature film movies, say over the last 10 or 15 years, and on the little indie feature films, where you don't get paid much of anything, they have a really short shooting schedule. You're working your ass off, and then when you finish, and they go to promote the picture, you are the marketing budget. Mm-hmm. In other words, you going on the talk shows and everything else to sell the movie and everything else is the budget, because what they do and how they figure it out now, they say, okay, you're on, the time they say, you're on David Letterman for 5 minutes. Let's see, they have a clip. That's worth $350,000. You're on Stephen Colbert and you're promoting the show here. and they add up what the advertising costs would be with your performance, right? These are these little indie pictures. And then they show the distributor, oh, we had a $7 million budget, marketing budget. Bullshit. They had nothing, man. They had me out promoting my
Carrying your
ass off,
bags.
carrying out. They didn't put any money in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had 2 or 3 of these little pictures, Solitary Man, King of California. Didn't do much. I picked pictures I loved and this and that. And after all of this, they would run in the movie theater. They would run for 1 week and then boom, go right to direct-to-video and screen, all right? So I was sort of like, screw this, man. So when I see now this argument and beef about Showtime or Netflix, in this case, doing feature films, or for me, it really happened when I did this Liberace show Behind the Candelabra for
Right.
HBO, okay?
Right.
So it's for HBO. It's
Shown
shown
in Cannes.
Well, it
As
was
a movie.
It was as a movie.
Yes.
Because it was in the movie theaters in Cannes, okay?
Right.
And it was shown theatrically. It was shown theatrically around the world. All right, so I don't want to say nothing, but Steven Spielberg was president of the Cannes Film Festival the year that I was there in Cannes. And the word was, and the rumor was, I was sort of favored for the Best Actor award, that he put the kibosh on that because it was an HBO film, a film
For TV,
for
made for
television,
TV, yeah.
even though it had played theatrically. So I think they're going to get this resolved, but my point only is that I did a few indie pictures, played for just for 1 week, forget them saying, well, we want 3 weeks in a theater. No, they only play 1 week before they threw the picture out and put it there. So and then what happened to me on Behind the Candelabra. So my feeling is that they got to really loosen this up, and fine. I certainly could play in a theater for a week or 2 weeks, but then it should be entitled to be treated as a movie.
I agree. I agree with you. I think it's like this, in a way. Do you act different when you do TV than when you do film? No, you don't. No. It's still, do you tell a story? You might have to tell it faster for a half hour than if it's an hour show. But besides that, you don't. It's the same. It should be treated the same. I think that movies should show on the theater. On movie theaters,
well, I mean,
then go straight to whatever it is, Netflix, Showtime. They should. Why not? Why not?
I mean, we have the Emmys, so I mean, broadcast shows and everything else. I'm saying, but for movies, if they are showed theatrically to some degree in a theater, they should be entitled.
Right. And a movie like Behind the Candelabra, which is fantastic, Matt Damon and yourself.
Yeah.
A fantastic performance. It's just, it should have been a movie. Whether it shows on TV, every movie shows on TV.
Maybe that's why I'm a little
eventually.
resentful, because Behind the Candelabra, every studio turned it down, right? So every studio didn't want to do it. I went, Steven Soderbergh, Matt Damon, me? I mean, it wasn't that expensive. Every studio turned it down. HBO went, so we had a great experience, and all of a sudden, I didn't have to be the marketing budget anymore. They had a nice marketing budget.
Right.
They presented it in movie theaters around the world, different places where it played as a film. So that it hit a particular button. The biggest advantage that's happened is this digital world. I mean, I don't know about you, but the difference now that we don't have celluloid, the ability that you can shoot and you can do one take after another and just pick it up and do it again. You don't have to stop, start all over again. Take 2, 151, take 2.
Change
this and that you're able to get a momentum going. I think the digitizing this world, I'm not that sophisticated about camera looks. I know some people are just fiends about celluloid, but I think the digitizing has just been a tremendous asset.
Well, now that you mentioned that, I think that going back to when I answered taking my time, I think that I started taking my time when digital came in because I didn't feel I was wasting film.
Aha. I got you.
You
Oh,
know,
cool. Yeah,
like
yeah.
before it was like, oh, we got to change the magazine, and there's like 5 people changing the thing,
Right.
and you're going, you better act fast. That's 3 minutes right there.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's funny, but yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. I think the digital thing is great. You know, even though I've done a couple things on film, which is nice too.
Right.
It's nice too. But,